Welcome back to the Haven Homestead Podcast, where we learn and grow together. That's right, together, on our way to living more sustainable lives. My name is Chris, and this is episode 42. Today we're going to be talking about rabbit products. Lots of rabbits. I'm going to cut for commercial later and talk about where you can find out more about us at the end of the episode today. Change it around a little bit. And if you like that better, let me know what you think on the website and social media. We'll get right into the rabbit products, the different things. Now, rabbits are a very beneficial farm animal. They're one of my favorite animals to have on the homestead for many reasons. But one is because they have so many different products that you can get out of each one of them. They're easy to raise. They don't take a whole lot. They don't eat a whole lot. You know, there's several good things, but the products that they produce, that kind of redundant, but the things that they produce, I think, make them very, very valuable to a homestead. Now, the main things I'm going to talk about is meat, or the meat for meat rabbits, hides, manure are the three main, maybe, and even just selling them directly. So just regular production, selling just the offspring. And then I'll also give you a few of our experiences in having rabbit manure on hand and how we've dealt with all these, these products that we've had. So first off, I'm going to talk about meat. Now, the meat, rabbit meat, we've talked about this on episode 17. I believe I talked about why rabbits. Why should you raise rabbits? For those of you who haven't heard it, maybe you first-time listeners, welcome, by the way. The meat is mild. It doesn't taste, people say things taste like chicken. Well, it tastes a lot like chicken. We just canned some rabbit, which is one of the things you can do with the meat. And Lindsay made chicken and dumplings, but instead she made it rabbit and dumplings. And it tasted just like chicken and dumplings. I mean, there wasn't any difference in taste and consistency from canned chicken to canned rabbit. So it's very mild flavored. It really takes on the flavor of whatever you're cooking, be it teriyaki or a savory dish of some sort. It will take on those flavors very well. It doesn't overpower. It's not gamey. It's just a great meat. It's super high in protein. It's one of the best meats you can eat in protein. One of the lowest in fat and cholesterol. So, lean meats, it is absolutely a lean meat, and mild to eat. So those are, two good things right off the bat. And then, strangely enough, it's high in B12. I think we talked about this not too long ago on one of the episodes. I'm not sure which one. It was just recently, because I remember looking up these facts, and it is high in B12, which was kind of a surprise to me. But I have a nutrition comparison of rabbit meat here, just a little survey that was done, and it has a little graphic on the bottom with a rabbit holding a piece of paper in its mouth that says, get the rabbit habit. The rabbit habit. I don't know if they're like nuns or if it's just talking about raising lots of rabbits. Anyhow, they said rabbit is lower in percentage of fat than chicken, turkey, beef, and pork. Well, that's of course because pork is like, 2,000 calories per ounce or something crazy like that. Pork is very, very high in fat. Cholesterol, like I said, cholesterol level in rabbit meat is much lower than chicken, turkey, beef, or pork. And then at the end of each one is, and this, I would point you to where I found this little website, but after I printed this off, I went to try to find it again, and I couldn't find out where it was at. I just put nutritional comparison of rabbit meat, or rabbit versus chicken meat nutrition, or something like that in the Google search, and came up with this. But after every statement here, it has a USDA circular number and where they found the information at. So it says like rabbit is highest in protein percentage, USDA circular number 549. So they have, each one is cited. you can use rabbit. So we're talking rabbit meat is, it says here, 795 calories per pound, which chicken is 810, veal is 840, and just keeps going up to pork, which is 2,050, like I had mentioned earlier. And rabbits will produce 6 pounds of meat on the same feed and water as a cow will produce 1 pound of meat. Because rabbits are raised off the ground, typically in a hutch, they're the cleanest of meats, and it doesn't take very much land at all to raise a lot of rabbits. Which I think I was talking to somebody, or reading something, I think it was, and it said Americans have the Thumper Syndrome, the Thumper from Bambi Syndrome, and maybe it was when I was interviewing Carlos Cunha, and that people don't want to eat a rabbit because it's so fluffy and cuddly and whatnot. But once they get past that, I think that really people will understand how influential this meat can be to feeding the world. It's easily raised, easily processed, and very high quality. So, also one last thing I want to say about the rabbit meat is you can sell it for dog food, or if people want to come to your place, they can buy a rabbit and you can show them how to butcher it so they can butcher in the future. That way that they learn a skill and get the meat to take home to their for their family, for their use. And I'm not sure what the laws are in your state, whether they have to come to your land and buy it and leave, or if you can't go off of your property to sell meat without commercial kitchen or whatever. Just check into that first. You want to stay legal, but there is a money-making part to the meat as well. Now the next part is hides. Hides are easy to tan, and I'll give you the recipe right now. So if you have a pen and paper and want to write down the recipe for the instructions, I guess, for tanning a hide, then now's your time. Alright, so you got your pen and paper. What you're going to need is 2 gallons of water. Put it into a 5-gallon bucket. Make it warm water. Not really warm, but just kind of lukewarm, I guess. Then mix in 1 pound of salt. Stir it up. Make sure that salt is all dissolved. Then you're going to put in a 1/2 cup of battery acid, which is sulfuric acid, diluted sulfuric acid. The reason I do battery acid is the sulfuric acid does not affect the hides in a way that will make the fur come out, as some other acids will. Also, you can get, I think I have like a 3-gallon thing of battery acid, and it cost me $20 or something. I mean, that'll last me a long dang time, because you only use a cup for a whole batch of rabbit hides, so it'll last me quite some time. And I can fill all the batteries that I need to. I don't really have much use for that. I don't have a whole lot of batteries, but if I need it, I have it. Okay, so just to recap, we got 2 gallons of warm water. Then you're going to dissolve in 1 pound of salt, and then mix in that 1/2 cup of battery acid. Then add your hides. The hides need to, you can do up to a dozen hides from what I've heard I've read on the internet. You can do about a dozen hides is the most for this 2 gallons of water. If you need to add another gallon of water and another 1/2 pound of salt and another 1/4 cup of battery acid, then you can go ahead and do that and up your amount of hides in one batch. Okay, then after you're gonna stir them in, stir it all around, and stir the hides in so they get nice and coated. And then after 2 full days, which you stir twice a day, so after 2 full days, then you're gonna flesh the hides. And what I mean by flesh the hides is, and I've found that when you put the hides in to start with, turn the flesh out and the fur in, because that way there aren't going to be air pockets, or there's less likely to be air pockets. If it's turned on the inside, there could be an air pocket stuck inside, which would cause the flesh or the hide to rot. So turn the gooey side out and the fluffy side in, then do this, and then after 2 days you want to take that out and flesh it. There's a hide, the part of the skin, and then there's like a membrane inside. And I found that if you start from the tail first, that it's easier to get that kind of worked up, and you'll see it start to separate a little bit. So you'll get that worked up, and then you're going to pull the membrane off. And it might take a little bit of time to do, each hide, but sometimes you can get a really big piece of membrane off all at once. And it's kind of it's just a membrane with some little bit of fat or maybe a little bit of meat, depending on how the skinning went. And anyway, so once you get the hide totally clean of all the membrane, then set the hide aside, do all the hides, then put in another pound of salt and another half cup of battery acid. So no more water, but you double the strength of the solution. Then go ahead and put those hides back in, stir them up twice a day for 7 days. After 7 days, you take them out, you wash them with soap and water to get all of the acid and salt off of there. And you wash them really good. You can use shampoo, I think, if you want. Just I'd check to see what different kinds of things. I think that we mostly use like dish soap, and then if you want, you can use some sort of like body wash or shampoo. I haven't had any problem with it to make it smell nice, because they do kind of smell like the tanning solution, which isn't a great smell. And then you hang the hides over something like a clothesline or something like that, so that they can drip and dry up. Once they're dry, then you can store them and work them at your leisure. However, before they're totally dry, when they're still a little bit, like just a little moist, not necessarily wet, but you'll start to see them start to shrink up. Start pulling on them. Work your hands in there and stretch the skin a little bit. It will turn white when it starts to get soft, and what you're doing is you're breaking up the fibers inside the hide. And if you need to, you can wet it with a damp cloth. You just take the hide and wrap it in a damp cloth, and the cloth will cause it to become workable again. And those hides that you put away that were dried, that you're storing, kind of, I guess you call them like green tanned or something, I don't know. They're not stretched. At any time, you can go ahead and wrap them in a moist washcloth or rag of some sort, so you kind of reconstitute them, and when they start to dry out again, you just start stretching the hides. And be careful, because rabbit hides are very easy to rip. If you pull too hard, they'll tear. And if there's any things that are bloody, or if there's any pieces that maybe you didn't flesh very well, you can just take some scissors and trim those off, so that you have a nice looking hide. After you've worked it and it's all nice and soft, then you can figure out what you want to do with it. If you want to use it for making crafts, or when I was talking about what are the things you could make out of, with rabbit hides, the family was saying you could make a pillow out of them. And I said you could, because usually when we skin our rabbits, we just pull the skin down. It's kind of like a sleeve. And I said you could just sew up the ends, and then you'd have like a little rabbit-sized pillow. And they all thought that was too weird. Maybe you have to make put a few rabbits together, sew a few rabbits together. But their hide is so thin that I think that you could actually sew it, like with the sewing machine. I don't know. I haven't tried it before. Maybe if any of you out there have tried it before, let me know how it works. You don't need a special needle, I don't think, like you would for thicker leather, to really punch through it, because they're so thin to begin with. So you can make all kinds. You can line things with it, line your mountain man attire, or your bags, or even make a bag out of the rabbit hides. Just keep in mind that they're not real thick. So the hides, and then you can also sell them for $5 a piece or something like that, which isn't very much, but it would easily pay for your supplies in doing it. So it's a sustainable way to make some money. Now the next thing that I think is one of the biggest things is your fertilizer, your manure, the as some people call it, the rabbit berries. Rabbits make a lot of manure. That's one thing that they excel at doing, is a lot of pooping goes on with those rabbits. When you take the fertilizer or the rabbit berries or the rabbit manure, whatever you want to say, you can put that fertilizer straight onto your plants. I was reading an article about rabbit manure, and the lady said that she has put the rabbit manure straight onto plants, baby plants, seedlings at any age, old plants, young plants, green plants, blue plants, because to prove that it does not burn your plants, like chicken manure or steer manure will all burn the plants. The nitrogen is in such a way that it will just kill and burn all your plants if you put it directly on there before it's had time to break down a little bit. That being said, rabbit manure is the highest animal manure I've seen in nitrogen and phosphorus, and it ties with sheep and horse, I believe, in potassium. So NPK, which is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. The potassium, everything is higher than any other common farm animal manure, except for it ties with sheep and horse in the potassium section. So, rabbit manure is top notch. Plus, it adds organic matter, like we talked about 2 episodes ago in the prepping your garden for winter. It adds organic matter, which is something you can't get from commercial fertilizers. The rabbit manure is plentiful, as I said, and it's also easily managed. You can just put a bin underneath, and the rabbits will they usually poop in one corner. You find out whatever corner that is. You put the bin over it. They'll typically just poop into the bin, and then you can just pull the bin out and go and dump it in a place that you near your garden shed or in around fruit trees. I like to scoop it into a wheelbarrow and then take the wheelbarrow out to fertilize the different fruit trees, and it's worked very well so far. You can turn it into rabbit berry tea, I don't know, however you want to call it, bunny tea. What you do is you put in like 1 part rabbit manure to 5 parts water, and then let it compost out in the sun or let it soak out in the sun for like 3 days. Then you strain the tea there's the solids out of the tea, and you keep that tea, you can throw the solids onto the garden or whatever, and then you use the tea you can dilute that more like a cup per gallon or some of water, and you can use that as a fertilizer around. But you don't need to. You can just put the poop straight onto the plants, straight onto the garden. You can also compost it. If you're trying to build a really high quality compost, you can put that in with your other things that you have, your other compost ingredients, and make some really high quality compost that you can use in your garden and sell. I've seen people selling worm tea. I see no reason why you can't sell bunny tea. Also, speaking of worms love rabbit manure, and for some reason they really like the rabbit pee too. It seems to attract them for some sort. And when I dump out a whole thing of rabbit manure, I usually inoculate the bin again with some more worms out of my worm compost, just so they can start breaking it down, and they don't hurt anything. I just put them in the garden too, and everybody's happy. Well, now time to take a break for our sponsor. Happy Leaf LED has a new Anywhere, Anytime Garden in a Box kit. It is the essential kit for a fast and easy passive hydroponic gardening system, and you can get the whole kit for only $65. All you have to do is add mason jars and start growing herbs and leafy greens hydroponically as soon as you open the box. With our advanced LED grow light and easy starter kit, anyone can master indoor gardening anywhere, anytime. In the kit, it includes a 4-inch LED grow light with a growth area of 1 foot by 1 foot, a hydroponic nutrient solution, light suspension tools, hydroponic clay pellets, 4 net pots, power supply with USB cord, light timer, and seeds. Head on over to happyleafled.com. Check out the Anywhere, Anytime Garden. Save an extra 10% off your order by entering the promo code FRIEND, all caps, at checkout. And don't forget to tell them that Haven Homestead sent you. You'll be happy you did. Now back to rabbits. So we have one more thing that I want to talk about, and that is making money from the rabbits. So you can sell the manure, you can sell the hides, you can sell the meat, you can sell the kits, which are the baby rabbits. You can sell them for $10 to $15 each, or more, depending on where you live and depending on what breed you have. If something like a silver fox, then they go for, 20, 30, 35, depending on what people are buying them for. If they're buying them for show breeds, then they're going to cost a little bit more. If they're buying them for meat breeds, it might be a little bit less. But you can always, I can't say always, but if you can't sell your rabbits, then you can turn them into these other products. So it kind of has a fail-safe. And if somebody doesn't want to buy the live rabbit, they might want to buy the meat. And if they don't want to buy the meat, they might be interested in hides or manure. Just depends on what kind of market you have in your area. Now, straw bale gardening I want to talk about. We did straw bale gardening the first year we were here, maybe it was the second year we were here on our property, and we had so many, like a dozen straw bales, and we put them in rows, and we bought the fertilizer that they said we were supposed to have, and we didn't have enough room for all of our plants, so we had another spot nearby which had rabbit manure on it, and we just kind of turned the soil a little bit with a shovel and put rabbit manure in there, and then planted the plants in there and covered them with straw. So this is growing in straw versus growing under straw. And the stuff that had the rabbit manure was like 3 times as big, 3 times as much fruit, and all the fruit was bigger. I mean, we had much better results from rabbit manure with some mulch on top than we did from the straw bale gardens with, all those expensive chemicals. Because really, it is not a sustainable way to garden. I've gone since then into more of a lasagna style gardening, which, you put the layers, and if you're interested in that, then you can listen to 2 episodes ago. We talked about lasagna style gardening and getting your garden ready for spring now. So, as my testimonial to this, rabbit manure is awesome for growing plants. The tomatoes this year loved the rabbit manure. I had tomatoes that were like over 10 feet tall. After they got past where I could reach, so probably over 8 feet, then they fell down and kept growing and just produced like crazy. We had so many tomatoes out of 8 plants. It was more than we knew what to do with. We canned a bunch and still had more than we knew what to do with. That is my 2 cents on rabbit products. Rabbits are amazing. So go out and get some rabbits today. Please also, while you're getting them rabbits, or in between you're, getting rabbits, head on out to havenhomestead.com. That's www.havenhomestead.com, where you can learn all about us and see what we have going on here at the farm, our events, our products. We just sold a couple spurtles to somebody. Somebody bought a couple spurtles, which, if you're not sure what that is, check it out on our website. They are the ultimate kitchen tool. Just got those shipped out to him as a black walnut and a plum one. I didn't have too much plum material, so those are definitely limited. But I have more of the maple and black walnut and stuff like that, and also sell cutting boards and things like that make good Christmas presents. I know it's a little bit late for that, but birthday presents, I don't know. Anyhow, also, please head over to Instagram if you have that. It's The Haven Homestead, or Twitter under Haven Homestead. Or if you like the show and you'd like to support us and keep it going, make it a viable and sustainable enterprise for us, please head on over to www.patreon, that's patreon.com/Haven Homestead, and support us for as little as $1 a month. That is 25 cents an episode. This has been another edition of the Haven Homestead Podcast, where we learn and grow together on our way to living more sustainable lives. Thanks for listening.